It's the beginning of another football week, and so that means another press conference comes around as the Tigers try to figure out a way to right the ship in the direction they want to go for the rest of the 2022 season, with their most challenging tasks coming up ahead in the schedule. So we're going to discuss today what Coach Harsin said during his press conference for the opening of Georgia week, the comments, the questions, and this time we're going to do things a little bit differently with our top 5 takeaways for you all. Before we do that, I want to remind you a couple things. Make sure that you do smash that like button if you enjoy this type of content. We always want to take the opportunity as well to thank members of our booster club like Stan McCullers, who help produce videos like this. Let's jump right into it. As always, I want to remind you, do check out the main press conference video that we have here available for you. It's good for context, for having the full information in terms of questions, answers, and commentary from the overall press conference. What we've got for you here is the summary, the top 5 takeaways, and with a little bit of our own flair thrown in there, which we hope that you'll find value in as well. But I think it's always important to have that full context to understand and not just hear what you're reading on social media about what is and isn't said. With that being said, though, let's jump right into it. Takeaway number 1 for me is about subtractions and additions. And this is probably the biggest thing of the entire press conference. This is probably the biggest sad point too, is 2 official losses now for the rest of the season, effectively, depending on surgeries and things like that. Let's just talk about the one that's probably not as surprising. Zach Calzada, rumor's been for a long time, he's not going to come back for this season because he's been having continued issues with that shoulder that's been giving him some problems that he's already had surgery on once. He's officially out for the rest of the season. On top of that, and this is the big kicker right here, Iku Leota has an issue with a pectoral muscle that will require surgery, effectively out for the rest of the year. A humongous loss for the Auburn Tigers. Now let's talk about additions. Ikevius Walker is back into the rotation in terms of being back at practice and involved with the team again after having some personal issues that coach really didn't delve into. He said nothing really major, just things that he had to work through. Glad to have him back, especially after we're losing, a guy like Iku Leota, even though it's not the same position, it's the general area as well. And on a happy note, somewhat of an addition too, because it's a scholarship addition, Trey Lindsey now will be a scholarship quarterback, making it 3 scholarship quarterbacks that are left on the staff, or not the staff, but the player roster after all of those injuries. Takeaway number 2, let's talk about players to watch for UGA. These are the ones that were noted by Coach Harsin to keep an eye on, and obviously it starts right with their quarterback, Stetson Bennett, who I even have to admit that I discredited and discounted for the longest time being a walk-on. I should know better than that. He's won them a national championship. He earned the credit that he gets at this point. He needs to be taken seriously, and coach said as much during his press conference. But some other ones to keep in mind would be the tight ends, not just Brock Bowers, the phenom, probably going to win the tight end award, but also Darnell Washington to go along with him. Going to be really tough for Auburn to defend those 2 guys. On top of that, in the offense, let's talk about the wide receivers, McConkey and Mitchell. When you put that 4-headed monster together on offense with the way Stetson Bennett is able to deal it, as he has proven he can do, that's a potent offense right there. And no one really specifically pointed out on defense, but he did say that the front 7 is very formidable. Even after the linebackers and the rest of the front 7 losing a lot of talent, he did say that the linebackers really do impress him. So that is who to keep an eye on for UGA this week. Takeaway number 3 would be the discussion about the second half. We all seen it. We all saw the stats circulating on social media about how awful it's been, not just season, but the end of last season as well. And obviously, and he said as much, the coaches are well aware of it. And I find this interesting. People get offended when he doesn't offer exactly what they're going to do when asked about that. I mean, think about that. You're asking him to give the game plan for the issues that teams can exploit right now and their solutions that they're trying to do. And you get mad that he doesn't share the particulars of that. Seems a little oxymoronic to me. Regardless of that, the stats and the facts are there. It needs to be addressed, and obviously they're trying to work on that right now. You saw some of that in this game, I believe, too, where they were able to open up the offense a little bit. Coach talked about that a little bit. Things that they've been working towards that are just now starting to get to the point, the ability to be able to do some of those things, and was probably why we saw some of those improvements. It goes just beyond the actual offense struggling in the second half as well. It goes back to halftime, the very beginning of it as well, and our defense allowing a lot of scoring right before then. That's been a problem, a huge momentum swing that happens. So it's not just an offense problem, but it's a holistic problem about not responding, and the big buzzword right now, adjustments in the second half. working hard on it, and we just got to be patient for it for however long this coaching staff and team is together. Takeaway number 4 will be talking about assessing the offensive line. Talked about a lot of different things here, and the number one problem that coach pointed out is their penetration up the middle that they're allowing, which has really resulted in frustrations for guys like Tank Bigsby, who really should be doing a lot better statistically than he has at this point in the season. Now, coach did go on to point out, and I think a lot of us has even noted this, that we felt like maybe there was a step in the right direction with the offensive line, even in a week where there was a lot of mixing and matching. And coach did even note that it was more of a kind of feast and famine issue and in the running game where they had some big moments and then they would kind of fall back to some old habits. But at least there seemed to be some progress at some point. But he talked about the importance of giving guys like Jarquez Hunter and Tank Bigsby the little opportunity they need to make something happen, because that's the type of athletes and running backs that they are. And they also need to focus on opening up the run game on the perimeter as well. This is all issues that the offensive line is working towards. Question is will they do it? And finally, the big question that everybody wants to know and talk about, and I'm sure they would love to hear his perspectives on it, they'd ask about his job security at Auburn. Now, no specific reporter asked about his job security in this particular press conference, but they did find a way to kind of superimpose that specific question within another question. They asked him about whether or not he found it weird or there's a trend with all of these different Power 5 coaches that are losing their jobs this early in the season, how it makes him feel. I don't really know what you expect him to say with that, because it's the lose-lose situation. If he says he's worried about it, well, then he appears weak. If he says he's not worried about it, then he's not being realistic. So what do you expect him to say other than the typical coach speak answer of every program is different and every single situation is different, and just kind of leaving it as a no comment without saying a whole lot at all. Not really surprising. So those are my top 5 takeaways, kind of rounding out a lot of the commentary and questions from the press conference. I'd love to know from you what you thought about some of the things that I had to say here in my summary of the press conference, things that stuck out to you, any other talking points that you'd love to hit in the comments section below. On your way out, be sure to smash that like button if you did enjoy this type of content. We always encourage you to hit that subscribe bell so you don't miss anything. Uploads, live streams, shorts, anything here on the YouTube channel. Also want to make you aware that there are opportunities to help support our content listed in the description below, such as being a channel member here or joining the Booster Club at patreon.com/E2C Network. Thanks for tuning in here to E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. War Eagle.